Forgiveness, yeah. Even if you don't love me anymore. That just sums it up so well. Because there's two sides of that story. Even if you don't love me anymore, does that mean that I'm not lovable? Or does that just mean that I'm not going to get it from you? And we're talking about radical forgiveness. That's the difference. That's the key difference. That we're not giving away our lovability because something changed in our experience. Title of the talk today is Love is Forgiving. And yeah, it's going to be a lot about forgiveness. And that's the title is a way to kind of sneak up on you to make you think it's not going to be just about forgiveness, because a lot of people are scared of forgiveness. We've been doing a radical forgiveness class that started last Monday. And it's kind of come to my attention that some people are more scared of doing forgiveness work than of tithing.
Wow.
Yeah, which I didn't think was possible, but there you go. So if nobody has mentioned this to you yet today or this week, I want to say, I love you. I love you. You are loved. You are love. And your life is an invitation for love. It's an invitation for you to share love. It's an invitation for you to be love. And the whole idea about our experience here in life is not that we have to experience love all the time. It's not like we have to be aware that we are love all the time. It's always a choice. Everything we're doing in our human experience is a choice. We're given the opportunity to choose whatever it is that we want. And if we want to go through life choosing just vanilla or just chocolate, we're perfectly free to do that for whatever reasons and whatever religious zealotry and fervor we have. We can have wars with the people who like vanilla because we're chocolate people. I mean, you know, that's possible. It's possibly not necessary, but it sure is possible. So in New Thought, we have the notion that God is everywhere. God is everyone, God is everything, God is all there is. And the corollary of that is that everything that you are, you individually, not generic you, the people who are out there in a crowd, you are that infinite love of God right here, right now, and always. And we're always free to remember that. And we are always free to forget that. That's the choice that we have. Now, some of the choices that we make are very conscious choices. Some of the choices that we make are very unconscious choices. A week ago, I had the oil changed in my car, and I was riding my bicycle back over to the car place to get my car. And it was on Lancaster Avenue. It's a relatively busy street with wacky parking. Saturday afternoon, so there wasn't that much traffic. But I'm always prepared for people to be behaving in ways that bring more excitement into my life than I might otherwise choose. And there's a guy riding his bike in the opposite direction, on the same side of the street that I was on. I was on the right side of the street, so he's heading towards me. And he's just been to the supermarket, I can tell, because he's got 2 shopping bags full of groceries, and he's turning the handlebars on the bike, and the bags are swinging back and forth, and he's wobbling and stuff. He's coming this way, and I'm coming that way. So I'm watching this, and there's a space between parked cars, so I curve over. And he curves in the same direction at the same time. We both stopped. And he says, "Why would you turn to the inside?" And I said, "I like to keep to the right," which is the law. And when we're having the agreements that we have with traffic, that's kind of one of the ones that we've agreed to in this country, is that you keep right. That was the end of the interchange with the guy. You know, we were stopped, he was stopped, he said this angry little thing, and he kept going, and I kept going. And for some reason, the story kept on coming back to me this week. It's like, why is this important to me? And the part of it that got my attention is that he wasn't talking about having his perfect, enjoyable experience. He was doing whatever it was that he was doing. He went grocery shopping, he only had the bike, he's on the bike, he's trying to get himself home, he's carrying the bags and whatever else it happens to be, and then he runs into this challenge in the form of me riding my bicycle in the opposite direction. So obviously, in some way, I hit his frustration point. Okay, I'm all right with that. And what he wanted to do was, instead of seeing the love in the situation and the opportunity in the situation and being all spiritual and stuff like we always think that we're going to be, where did he go? He went right to blame. He went right to fault. He went right to, why did you do that? Well, anybody who's ever had children will know that when a 2-year-old asks you why, it's because they want to get information. When a 5-year-old asks you why, it's because they want to learn something new. When a teenager asks you why, it's because they want to argue with you and they want you to lay out your position so they can undermine it. I want you to be home at 11 o'clock. Why? Because it's a school night. And then they can say, I don't have school tomorrow. Or it's a half day. Or they can come up with a reason why whatever you said doesn't matter, because then they get what they want. There are lots of reasons why people are asking a why question. This guy was asking a why question. He didn't care what my reason and my thought process was. He wasn't asking a 5-year-old why. Why did you turn that way? Because I would have told him. He said, oh, okay. That would be the 5-year-old response. He just wanted to be angry. I'm assuming that he wanted to be angry. I didn't spend a whole lot of time with him. We didn't sit on the couch or anything. There was no purple pillow, conversation time, or any of the rest of that. So for some reason, he was having a less than completely enjoyable time. And we call them bad times. So our lives are filled with what we think of as good times and we think of as bad times. So the good times are the joyous and peaceful and prosperous and happy and fun parts of our lives, where the pieces are just fitting together. And we love it when the pieces fit together. And what we call the bad times are the times when the pieces of our lives are not fitting together. You ever done a jigsaw puzzle? You got that pesky little piece that just doesn't seem to belong anywhere? And you're turning it around and you're mashing it into place and you're getting angry at this bad piece that's not fitting. There's nothing wrong with the piece. Nothing wrong with the piece of the jigsaw puzzle. And if the jigsaw puzzle pieces could feel something, they would probably say, ow, I'm being mashed around, my edges are hurt, I'm rubbing up against this other stuff. They're having this whole experience of like, this is just wrong. I didn't do anything. What did that poor little jigsaw puzzle piece do to deserve that sort of attitude or that sort of treatment? Possibly nothing. Possibly that was just part of the experience. So we don't know. And all of us are going through that process all the time. We all have a bunch of jigsaw puzzle pieces and we're fitting them together and we're all doing it in the best way that we can. The guy on the bicycle was doing the best that he could at the time, and I got home safely. I'm going to assume that he got home safely. There was no ambulance that I saw on my way back, and there was nothing on the news. So I'm going to figure that was okay. So he was living his story and I was living my story. And the important part to remember is that as we go through our stories, they become our history. Our story becomes our history. And we can live from the position of our story being our definition. You know, even if you don't love me anymore, that must mean I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, I'm horrible, you're a bad person, you made promises that you should never have made. This is, how would you set those expectations? You can get all blamey with the other person, get all negative about yourself, or you can accept the situation that you're in. Our friend John Eric Moss has a phrase that's just wonderful. He talks about the binding influence of the past. And he says that we are sometimes captive to the binding influence of the past. In fact, I'm going to demonstrate this. Have you got the chain over here? That's the key. We're going to need that later. Put it through the ring. No. Put it at the top. Through the ring there. Nice and tight. One more. Good. I thought James was going to be here to chain me up because it seems to be his thing.
Okay, well, isn't it?
It's locked. That's solid.
Okay.
So where were we? Oh yeah. I think I mentioned something about the binding influence of the past.
Yeah.
We've been telling the story like 3 or 4 times in the last few weeks about the elephant getting tied to the stake when it's a little elephant, and they use a relatively small rope, and then the elephant learns that it can't escape the rope. So even when it's a really big elephant, it stays in the same radius. Well, this is kind of the same thing, except this actually is involving me, and it's much more real, and you're not going to think, well, I'm so much smarter than an elephant. You know, you may be much smarter than me. I'm standing up here with chains on my wrists for reasons that we really haven't completely explained yet. But we're talking about the binding influence of the past. What is it that's holding us back? What is it in our story? What is it in the history that's got control of us? I'm going to suggest that it's all about fit. It's all about how the pieces are fitting together. I've been seeing an Ayurvedic physician for the last probably 3 or 4 years, Dr. Alpa Bhatt, this lovely Indian woman. And Ayurveda, if you don't know anything about it, is an ancient healing practice. And it's a wellness practice where it's based on doing what is appropriate for your body and for your body type. So everybody has, there's basically 3 different, what they call doshas, or physical types. And I'm a pitta, and that's the fire type. There's an air and a fire and an earth. And so I'm fire. And that means that the things that I do, the activities I'm involved in, the food that I eat, need to be supportive of my pitta type, my dosha. And when they're not, I get into an imbalance, and it shows up as, you know, all sorts of discomfort or illness in my life. So she's been treating me for a while, and she keeps on telling me about the foods that I should be avoiding and the foods that I should be eating and the activities I should be involved in. Apparently, mung bean soup is Ayurvedic penicillin. Everybody should have some. I have a very good recipe if you're interested. So periodically, Dr. Bhatt would ask me, well, what do you have for breakfast? When she first asked, I said, well, Greek yogurt, usually. She says, oh, Greek yogurt, that is very good, but not for you. What do you mean, not for me? It is fermented. For your pitta type, that is not good to have fermented food. What else do you eat? So sometimes for lunch I have a turkey sandwich. Oh, good, what's on the turkey sandwich? Turkey, piece of cheese. She says, oh, that's very good, but not for you. You should not be having cheese, because it's fermented. I told her about the red wine, but not for you. So now I eat fruit and quinoa a lot these days, and no cheese. And it's not like there's actually something wrong with cheese. My name is Marchiony. She said that I shouldn't have tomato sauce. It's like, really? You're telling an Italian guy you shouldn't have tomato sauce? She says, not for you. But it's understanding where the fit is going to be. So I could get all upset and all angry at Dr. Bhatt, or I could reject Ayurveda because it doesn't fit in with me wanting to go have a pizza. Because let me tell you, if you're going to avoid the white bread and the cheese and the tomato sauce, you're pretty much going to get the cardboard box. That's the pizza. But what it does mean is that if there's something in our lives that's not working, it's wonderful to be aware of it, to recognize what that is so that we can make a choice. It doesn't mean that we're unworthy. It doesn't mean that we don't deserve to have whatever that good thing is. You know, even if you don't love me anymore, that doesn't mean I'm not lovable. It means that I can't get it in this particular form at this particular time. And forgiveness is about letting go of that attachment and knowing the truth that's behind it, that's beneath it. When we're aware of what's going on, we can make a change. There's always that invitation to find the fit. So as we heard in the reading today, radical forgiveness is not about getting up to that highly spiritual place where whatever that horrible thing was that somebody did, we can let go of our energy about that. We can transcend that. We can become so spiritual and so enlightened and so evolved that we can let that bastard off the hook. That's
Mock turtle soup.
That's mock turtle soup, yep. With radical forgiveness, what Colin Tipping does is he approaches it from exactly the opposite direction. It starts with the premise that you are a spiritual being having a spiritual experience in human form. And that everything that happens, like I mentioned right at the beginning, everything is God's infinite love taking different form. Everything. The stuff that we label as good and the stuff that we label as bad is all God's love unfolding for us. Sometimes it's an opportunity to bring us joy. Sometimes it's an opportunity to bring more prosperity or vitality or health or whatever we call good into our lives. And sometimes it's to get past a sticking point. If we're to learn the lesson that we're loved, that we're lovable, that we are a divine and perfect expression of God's love all the time, it'd be really nice to just feel loved all the time. But when you really know it is when you feel like it's been taken away from you and you have it anyway. So in radical forgiveness, we turn our attention to the spiritual truth that's going on, that we are perfect. We're having a perfect experience. And whatever it is that happened, whoever it was that did it to us, is another expression of God's infinite love, doing whatever horrible thing it seemed like to us, whether it's concentration camps or the guy swerving in front of you on a bicycle. They're there for a purpose, to give you an opportunity to learn, to grow, to deepen, and to become more convinced, more sure, more certain of who you are. And there are a lot of ways to learn the lessons. There are an awful lot of ways to learn the lessons. If there's a lesson that I need to learn, the universe, the infinite universe, limitless intelligence, will find multiple ways to get that message to me until I get it. My friend Kathleen was a climbing instructor over at the Go Vertical climbing gym here in town. And whenever I went climbing there, I would sometimes overhear her teaching the beginner's class. And this is like basic safety procedures. Every time I heard her teach the class, she taught it slightly differently. What she was doing when she was teaching the class was she was understanding what it was the student was going to be able to hear. Some people are tactile, some people are visual, some people are verbal. Some people are really intellectual, some people are all, heart and feeling based. So she'd spend a little time having a conversation with them, and she would teach the class differently, and she would use the language, and she would use the examples that would work for them. She's a very good teacher. And if Kathleen can do that at the climbing gym, then the infinite can probably do that in an even bigger way for the stuff that we consider to be important in our lives. So the purpose, the invitation to forgiveness, is not to let whoever it was off the hook. It's not to say that the behavior was okay. It's not to say that that terrible thing that happened, that part of our history, was okay. It wasn't. When we get into a forgiveness situation, it's stuff that felt bad. It's stuff that challenged our belief about ourselves, about God, about our relationships, about whatever it happened to be. Sometimes it's something that happened when we were really little and hooked our attention, and we've been living that pattern ever since. Sometimes it's something that's happened when we were younger, and then it happened again in a different way, and again and again and again. How many of the things that you think that you're like, where people done it to you, has followed the same pattern on more than one occasion? Yeah. Forgiveness is about getting the energy out of the situation so that you learn the truth about yourself, so that you don't have to get that lesson again. That's what it is to release the binding influence of the past. And you don't need to do anything special. You don't need to unlock the lock. You don't need to do anything. You simply need to go through the process and allow yourself to be free. Did I mention that you are loved? Yeah. That you are lovable. That you are a divine and perfect expression of God's infinite good. You are. That is the truth about you. The experience that you've had, that's wallpaper. That's a design over the top of the architecture of the truth of who you are. That's your story. Our stories are fun. We love to tell our stories. The story that I love to tell is the truth, that you are that divine and perfect love right here, right now, and always. And I love you.